Welcome to Stochastic MLB DFS, live before lock for the early slate. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by SoRare MLB, which is a digital trading card and NFT-based, free-to-play MLB game. We'll talk about SoRare a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Adam, we've got just a four-gamer to talk about today after we talked about that five-gamer yesterday. This one, easy peasy, right? 4 games?
Yeah, should be.
How did yesterday go for you?
Not great. I played a decent amount of Bryce Miller, but I had more Senga, I had more Cortez, had Marlins, had Mariners, didn't really have Yankees, didn't have Orioles. So had some decent looking teams, just didn't quite get there.
Yep, same. In the nights that I played a ton of Marlins, and that went fairly well for me, but overall, just not quite getting there. Red Skittles, whoever it was, I was talking about Quantrill yesterday. Total idiot there. But to be fair, I believe that person, who will remain nameless, was saying that they had no choice in the matter. They had to play Quantrill. He was already in their lineup. They couldn't change it. So,
right.
It wasn't a bad decision. It was just a force of nature, I guess.
Yeah, unlucky.
Unlucky, exactly. All right, so we do have Coors on this early slate. So this is just 4 games, one of those games being the Coors game. That's going to make things interesting as always. Adam, we've talked about this before. Like, I think you and I have both said that 4 games is like the cutoff of where like maybe you would consider playing a bat against your pitcher, a single bat against your pitcher. Do you think today is a day where you will consider playing a bat against any pitchers?
Yeah, I have it allowing 1.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it's somewhat slate dependent. Like, there are some certain slates where I'm like, I don't know that any of these stacks go off. It's a way to get different. I don't know. Where I decide to do it, but more often than not, on a 4-gamer, I think more often than I probably do allow for 1. Haven't decided what I'm doing yet today, but I think that today that is definitely a discussion point. Like, there are plenty of people who good players out there who will tell you just don't ever play a bat against your pitcher on a 4-game slate. I think that this is kind of like the limit for me, and I think you said the same thing. Is 4 games, maybe I consider playing like 1 bat against a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to show up pretty infrequently with there being 8 offenses to choose from, and also a large percentage of the stacks you're building are like 5-3 or 4-4, which means you can't. So
yep.
Like, it's not going to show up very often, but and when it does, it's generally going to be like a really good hitter against your pitcher. Also on this particular slate, there's not many pitchers that I wouldn't mind having a bat against. So, it's not like you're worried about, I'm taking some random one-off against my Spencer Strider. Like, whoever your pitcher is, there's probably a one-off against them that you don't mind having anyway.
That's a really good point. Yeah, this is the type of slate where I think I am going to be willing to play bats against pitchers, just because we don't really have a ton of tough spots out here. Like, definitely, we could get one of these pitchers in the winning lineup while still giving up a couple runs is fairly likely on this slate.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. Like, it's pretty unlikely that, it's entirely possible one of these pitchers or 2 of these pitchers just go off, but like, you can't really look at it ahead of time for the most part and say like, oh yeah, this is the guy that, is going to score 25, 30 fantasy points. Like, there's a pretty good chance when you have this quality of pitching on a 4-game slate that it just turns into like whatever 2 guys didn't pitch horribly end up being perfectly fine to win. And if they give up a 2-run home run, that's not making it impossible for that to happen.
Yeah, good point. Adam Perry says, I think allowing bats versus pitcher also depends on the size of the GPP you're playing. Yeah, that's probably true.
Maybe. I'm kind of like trying to think through it. I don't know which way that even goes. Like,
I was kind of having the same thought process. I'm like, I can't decide.
Like, you can you definitely. It seems like the smaller the tournament you play, you can kind of just get away with playing a hitter against your pitcher because you don't need as high a score.
Right.
But then on the other end, if you're playing the largest field, it does help differentiate you a little bit.
Right.
And there's still plenty of ways where like a pitcher is one of the highest scoring pitchers and he gives up a home run to somebody. And you need to be closer to perfect in large fields. So yeah, I think you could kind of make the case either way.
Yeah, I think his what I would take it as, I'd be more inclined to not play bats against the pitcher in a smaller field, but it is, as you said, I see both sides. Like, you can make
I think I would lean that way too, but like it also goes back to like, you don't need to score as many points.
Oh, that's what Adam is saying. He was saying too. He was thinking the largest field you need differentiation closer to the nuts. Yeah, I think that is the case, especially on like you definitely never need like the nuts in MLB, but the smaller the slate gets, the closer you need to
You need most of the guys that hit home runs, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I kind of when I was thinking through it, I just kept picturing the like meme graph on like crypto Twitter, where you have like the idiot at the far left end, then you get the bell curve, and then on the far right end, it's the smart person, but with the same.
Yeah.
So I just kept picturing like the play hitter against your pitcher, and then play hitter against your pitcher for totally different reasons.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's the perfect meme for us. All right. We have 4 games to talk about. If you guys have questions, things you want, I saw we already got a call to talk about tiers. We can talk about some tiers. We've got plenty of time here. But if you have anything else you guys want to talk about, we're only going over 4 games here. We'll start with the first one, though. St. Louis at Cincinnati. Miles Mikolas on the mound for the Cards. Luke Weaver for the Reds. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
A little bit, since it's a 4-gamer and they aren't pitching in cores. It's pretty much anybody who's pitching today on this slate and not pitching in cores is going to be at least a decent option, because you essentially have 3 games for pitching. So yeah, neither one, Mikolas or Weaver, are guys that I'm ever really excited to get to, but they both look decent. They're both showing up like 25-ish% of the time in the crunch I just ran. 29% ownership coming into Mikolas, 26% coming into Weaver, both around 25% in terms of top 2 pitcher percentage. Better matchup for Mikolas taking on the Reds. The park is tough to pitch in, but more difficult matchup for Weaver. Weaver's a pitcher that I've always had trouble sort of like figuring out. There have been times where I thought he wasn't very good, that he ended up being good for a prolonged stretch. There have been times where I'm like, okay, like this guy is good. I think I figured out why, and then he's terrible. So he's somebody that I've really had trouble with, but he does at least have some upside. Does have decent strikeout stuff, 22% K percentage this year. Does also have a 5.87 FIP, and he's allowing 2.5 home runs per 9. So he has had some power issues. You do have a Cardinals lineup or a Cardinals team that has power. You have a Cardinals lineup though that does not have a lot. No Goldschmidt today, no Arenado, no probably other people. I mean, Paul DeJong sitting cleanup, not to disparage Paul DeJong, but not typically your Cardinals cleanup hitter. It's not the best St. Louis lineup. No Contreras. This is a really, it's still not that, it's not that bad of a lineup. Like, it's still good enough hitters, at least, at the top and in the middle. But this is like we just clinched the playoffs and everybody's too hungover to play lineup.
I have not looked at what the lineup is for the
Nootbaar, Gorman, Donovan, DeJong, Burleson, Yepez, Edman, Kisner, Mercado. So there's
no Arenado.
There's no Arenado, no Goldschmidt, no Contreras, no Carlson, no O'Neill. I don't know who's on the injured list, who isn't. Like, why some of those guys aren't playing, but there's none of those guys in this lineup.
I feel like I just saw something about Arenado being out for something.
I think he left yesterday's game early.
Okay, yeah, that was the alert that I got. Okay, yeah, that's a watered down lineup.
This is a wild lineup. This is really crazy for a team that has performed way below expectations this year and needs to win games.
Yeah. Pat Fitz wants us to talk about FanDuel. We will talk about we'll cover that as well. Our favorite stacks for FanDuel. All right, so with that in mind, knowing that it's not a great lineup, obviously that helps your Luke Weaver interest. But do you have any interest in playing this watered down Cards lineup or Reds bats in this one?
Yeah, still a good park, still pitching that isn't the best. So I still don't mind getting to them. St. Louis coming in 13.5% chance of being the top stack at 15% ownership, but they do have the highest top value score by a lot because they're playing their second unit essentially. Reds coming in third from the bottom, 8% chance of being the top stack, 9% ownership. They're actually a little bit more expensive. I think they do have the more difficult matchup against Mikolas, at least in terms of pitchers that have consistently shown the ability to be decent. Mikolas so far this year, 4.5 FIP, nothing great there, striking out 17.5% of hitters. But, he's got a pretty long track record at this point of just being a solid enough major league pitcher. So I do think the matchup looks a little bit better for the Cards. And it's not like the Reds lineup is like the Reds normal lineup is on par with the Cardinals
current lineup,
8th best lineup.
Right. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Mikolas, Weaver, Cardinals, Reds.
Sounds good.
I think you could very easily flip-flop Mikolas, Weaver, or the Cardinals. I think the line is really just after the Cardinals. But even that, it's not like the Reds are bad. Well, I mean, the Reds are bad. It's not like they're a bad stack on this slate.
On this 4-game slate, yeah. All right, so pretty clearly Reds in last for you, but the other 3 are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
All right. Second
and this
game.
is a perfect example of a game where I wouldn't care at all if I have Luke Weaver at 7,200 in Cincinnati and I happen to have Nolan Gorman on the other side.
Right.
Luke Weaver can very easily give up a 3-run home run to Nolan Gorman and still be right at the top of what any mid-range pitcher scores today.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good example there. Second game here, we've got Toronto at Tampa Bay. Alek Manoah on the mound for the Blue Jays. Zach Eflin for the Rays. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, Eflin in particular, he's been very good this year, which shouldn't be surprising to anybody that follows baseball and knows that if the Rays go out of their way to go acquire a pitcher, they probably are going to make him really good, especially, somebody like Eflin that's always had the ability. He's shown the ability to be good. He just never has really put it together. But so far this year, a 28.5% strikeout percentage, walking less than 3% of hitters, 3.66 FIP, 302 xFIP. His only issue has been allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but nothing, other than that has been a problem. And he has gotten pretty unlucky with left-handed power so far. 207 actual ISO allowed, 168 expected, 256 expected WOBA to lefties, 284 to righties. He's been really, really good. You do have a dangerous matchup going up against Toronto, but it is in Tropicana Field, which is nice. So you get the Blue Jays outside of Rogers Center in a pitcher's park, 3.7 implied run total. And also most of the power, most of the dangerous bats in the Blue Jays lineup are right-handed hitters. You're also getting a little bit weaker than normal looking Toronto lineup. It doesn't have Springer. That
You've
might
seen.
no Springer, and I feel like one other person's missing too, but I'm not sure. But either way, most of their best bats are right-handed. 30% strikeout percentage against righties so far this year for Eflin, 27% to lefties. So, again, not a perfect spot. It is a tough, it is a dangerous matchup, but you are getting a little bit weaker looking Toronto lineup, and you're getting this in Tropicana Field.
I think it's bad that I still I never remember which one is good and which one is bad between Bo Bichette and Kevon Biggio, because they came into the league the same time.
Yeah.
They're both sons of famous baseball players.
Yeah.
It's just I struggle with those two, even though I know one is so much better than the other one.
Yeah.
I always have
the $5,000 one leading off is better than the one batting.
Well, I figured that out when I look at the lineup order. I know which one it is, but just the names, I can never remember. Wait, which one of these is actually good?
But Bichette and Guerrero are the good kids. Biggio's the.
Yeah, right. And they both start with B, they're kind of similar names, double T, double G. It's just it's tricky for me.
I think it might be the Dodgers now have a trio of basically the same thing coming up through the minor leagues, Ramirez, Ortiz, and Sheffield maybe.
I feel like baseball, no, that's not true. I was going to say baseball is the one where it seems the most genetic. You see so many kids of former great players become great also, but it's kind of true in all sports to some extent.
I think baseball, what it is, obviously being athletic helps, but you don't have to be an athletic freak. But baseball, you can get really, really good at baseball, technically, if you just have the financial ability to get good coaching and the ability to find quality coaching.
True.
So being born into somebody that is really, really, really good at baseball and has access to those circles, you can get really good, even if you're pretty athletic.
Yeah.
It's not like basketball where, Bronny James can only be so good at basketball. He still has to be a top, 0.1% athlete to actually play in the NBA. Baseball, you have to be athletic, but a lot of the athleticism that comes with that is obviously hitting and throwing. It's not necessarily
right. It's skill based more.
Yeah,
so
it's not running
just you're raw. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, and obviously it goes for other sports too. If you're Peyton Manning's son, you have a great quarterback coach. Obviously, you're going to have access to all this stuff. But in baseball, just with how skill based it is, I think that's why you see it so much too. There's a lot of people that just don't have the means to get good at baseball unless they are, just born into being, that 0.1% athlete.
Right.
And then, if you do have the means and you like it, getting quality coaching is just so big.
Yeah. I'm curious. Mini Ditka says children of pro athletes are 100 times more likely to make it to the pros. I'm wondering if it sounds like a made up stat because it's 100 times.
I mean, it also completely makes sense.
I know, but I'm if that is based on a study, it wouldn't shock me at all.
No,
so I'm curious if that is something that you read somewhere or just your impression, which is also my impression. Aggressive Goose says Chef Jr. is still in high school, but he looks like a beast. Why did I think? Does Gary Sheffield already have one kid?
Yeah, he's got a kid that's a sports reporter.
Okay. Yeah, I was I feel like that I know one of Gary Sheffield's kids, but I didn't know that he has another son who's looking like a beast in high school. Again, not a shock. All right. How much interest in the bats? Obviously, Toronto, Tampa, some of the better stacks in general. How much interest do you have here?
Definitely interested in the Tampa side. Manoah has not been good this year. He'll probably figure it out at some point. It's always risky to, even a month and a half, 2 months into the season, to say, this guy is not good anymore, but he has struggled. He's only struck out 17% of hitters. You have he's always had bigger issues with lefties than righties, which isn't surprising. And this year, he's only allowed a 180 a 180 actual ISO to lefties, which isn't good, but it's not the end of the world. 252 expected ISO, so he's actually gotten pretty lucky in the power department against lefties. Opposite against righties, 144 expected, 182 actual, but sub 20% strikeout percentage to both sides of the plate. Tampa looks pretty good here. You've got, just solid hitting pretty much top to bottom in this lineup. Josh Lowe leading off, Brandon Lau hitting cleanup at 4,600. Franco and Arozarena are going to look good. But then you get, cheaper bats that are still decent. Ramirez, Raley, Margot's free. So Tampa's going to look pretty good in the top stacks tool. They are coming in fifth at 10% chance to be in the top stack. Only about 7.5% ownership, though. So I like that ownership number.
Yeah, for sure. How would you rank the four sides of this game?
Eflin, Tampa, Blue Jays, Manoah. Okay. I think those two are close. They're both kind of like similar where it's, really tough spot for the Blue Jays bats and for Manoah, but we know the Blue Jays bats are talented enough to beat any pitcher. Manoah in theory is talented enough to, carve up a lineup still. So low probability, decent upside plays for Toronto and Manoah, but
okay,
they're last.
Yep. Mini Dicka says it's fact, by the way. I still don't know when he says it's fact, by the way, I still don't know, like, is that based on a study? Is that, it probably is fact, but it's just, I still don't like fully, I'm curious where the information is coming from. And then Gray Kid says, agree with Adam. The book Outliers hits on this. Pros kids definitely have a leg up. I agree with Adam too. It seems pretty clear that pros kids have a leg up.
And obviously they're also more likely to be extremely athletic.
Right. Also, yeah, that helps too. B asks, top sent in a super chat for $2. Thank you, B. Top secondary stack. Thanks, Adam and Neil. That's tough. Just looking at secondary stack specifically.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a mini stack here.
Yeah. In some ways, Miami. Just because
sure.
That's an approach I take a good amount of the time with the most popular stack. I like mixing in Tampa. They're going on their own, as a full stack. They're probably also going on their own as a secondary stack. So that's another one. You can mix them in with Miami to be different and still get a really high ceiling.
Yep, that definitely works. I'm trying to see if there's any others that I would. Tampa looks good in the top stacks tool, so that would make sense. No, I think those are good answers. I can't think of any other reason to go to somewhere else. San Diego obviously works as a secondary stack as well as a primary stack. I guess we'll get there, but yeah, I'd say those are good answers. All right. Next game. Actually, before we go on to the next game, we should talk briefly about our sponsor, So Rare MLB. I'll throw that up on the screen. I'm actually going to be doing a show with Greg following this one about So Rare MLB. New slate starts tomorrow for So Rare, so now is a good time to get started if you haven't already. Again, you can start playing So Rare for free. I'll put the link into chat right now. Use this link when you sign up. And of course, you can get started for free. They're going to give you the choice of several free cards in the common contest. They'll give you a salary cap, players to choose from, and you can build a lineup right away that you can then play starting tomorrow for free. And in those contests, you can play with the free cards. You can win other cards that are actually worth something, like the limited cards that you can resell on the marketplace. So you can win real prizes worth real money in contests you can enter for free on So Rare. Highly recommend checking it out. I have not taken a look yet at the slate that starts tomorrow. I'll be doing that with Greg again right after, I guess, an hour after the show ends. Greg and I will be going over that. So check that out as well if you're interested in getting started tomorrow. I think it's today is a good time to start looking at the slate for tomorrow. So join us on that show, and if you haven't signed up for So Rare yet, please do so. You can use the link that I just put into chat to sign up. And Adam, finally, I guess it was looking this way on the last slate too, that I was doing really well until literally the last day, and I dropped from 20th to not in the money. So that could very well happen once again today, but looking good so far. Both Luis Castillo performed well for me. Spencer Strider and the relief pitcher spot both did well. And then my full Coors stack, hoping that Coors goes off today. I get some points out of, looks like Chris Bryant is the straggler here. Charlie Blackmon. What's that?
I said, good luck. That never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. So
even yesterday, they scored 10 runs and it was just there were two guys that were good.
Yeah, I had a ton of that game. That was one of my biggest stands, was just if the field's not going to go there, and really our ownership projection was spot on for the Marlins too. We had them under owned. I was a little bit concerned, is this really going to hold? And it really did. It was just perfect, and great spot. They did okay. I only lost a little bit of money, so not the worst slate, but felt like it could have been more with how well they did, like in terms of runs scored. But yeah,
Right.
as you said, just like not that many. Davis, of course. Yeah, Trey Malco says I had Davis, which helped me in that lineup. I was talking with Greg, so Greg was, running some sims, running the sims, and he was not getting to Jonathan Davis. And at the end, toward lock, he was like, maybe I shouldn't even bother. Like, how much does it matter? But then he, of course, decided to, and he ended up doing really well. I mean, Davis obviously did well, but then Greg ended up in like, I want to say like 6th place or something in the large field GPP with Davis in the lineup. So
Again, wait, Greg got 6th again?
somewhere up there. Yeah, he was near. No, I think I'm wrong. I think so late in the game, he had he was in like 12th place or something, and he had like the most innings remaining of anybody, so it looked like he had a possibility of moving up, and then he actually dropped down to 15th like nobody else did. I think he finished around 15th. Who did do well is Matthew Bellman once again. Fantasy 2 nights in a row now, 100,000. I didn't even mention on the show yesterday. He's been absolutely crushing it. You guys, he joined me on a show last week or so.
Anybody wants to make $250,000 in a week, just fill in for me on a show.
Just jump in, take Adam's spot on a show briefly, and you're just going to make a ton of money. But yeah, really, really cool to see that Matthew's been absolutely crushing it now, both FanDuel and DraftKings this week. But anyway, check out So Rare if you haven't already. Greg and I will be doing a show on it in a little bit, an hour after the show ends. Greg and I will be talking So Rare, so check us out on that one if you're interested in playing this week. All right, let's go back to talking about 2 more games on this early slate. We got the Nats lineup. So let me refresh my fantasy cruncher.
Yeah, as expected, their normal lineup, you have Riley Adams instead of Keibert Ruiz.
Okay, nice. Are we getting to that game now? No, we're at the Miami Colorado game. Braxton Garrett on the mound for the Marlins. Kyle Freeland. What's that?
I said perfect timing. We just got the Rockies.
Oh, nice. All right. Kyle Freeland for the Rockies. Obviously, it's always a tough spot for pitchers and Coors, but we only have 4 games to work with here, Adam. Do you think you get to any Freeland or Garrett?
Garrett's okay. Freeland's a tougher sell. Garrett's actually been good this year. 25% strikeout percentage, 3.5 FIP, 1.1 home runs per 9, walking a little below 5% of hitters. Clearly going into Colorado is a massive downgrade, but the Rockies' offense isn't very good. Garrett has been solid again, much better against lefties. He's been okay against righties, but not really. 22% K percentage to righties, 226 expected ISO, 380 expected WOBA. Certainly very dangerous. Looking at the Rockies lineup, you have Doyle leading off, Bryant, Diaz, Grichuk, McMahon hitting 5th, Tovar, Trejo, Toglia, and Wins. So I think 7 righties in that lineup. Not the best matchup, obviously, and then also a tough park, but it is a 4-game slate with questionable pitching. Garrett's got a 21% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 16% ownership. I don't mind rolling the dice on him here and there in tournaments, but obviously not somebody that you're going to be comfortable going to. On the other side for Freeland, I think it's a little bit more difficult sell just because you have the same issues, pitcher and cores, all of that, but you don't get the same strikeout stuff. 17% strikeout percentage for Freeland this year, 4.5 FIP. It's not like he's the worst pitcher in the world, but certainly when you're strikeouts obviously give you an easier time erasing the runs that you allow, but also, the big thing with cores, everybody thinks about the, home runs and stuff. It's just how easy it is to get hits in that park because the outfield is so big to try and negate the home runs. So when you're somebody like Freeland that is going to let you put the ball in play more, you're just at that much more risk of running into these innings that you can't come back from.
Right. Interesting. They also have big foul territory, right, in Coors? I remember that.
I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. Okay. How much interest in the bats today? Obviously, Coors, it's always a big talking point. How much interest today?
Yeah, a lot. Miami coming in first in top stack percentage. Colorado 3rd. Neither team looks to be going that overowned, though. And that's in line with what we were talking about yesterday, where it just seems like the field has corrected a good amount, this year, last year, to, even these teams where if you just run unencumbered crunches, they're showing up as stacks 30% of the time. The field's still playing them a lot less than that. They've gotten better at shying away from ownership, and it's moved it back to where, like, these teams typically, like to your point on Twitter yesterday, these teams are pretty often in cores coming in at high ownership, but also like not coming in overowned. So I don't mind getting to either one of these stacks. And, I do like the way this Colorado lineup sets up against Garrett, for the reasons I said, that he has been very susceptible to right-handed hitters this year, and you've got a lot of them here in Coors.
Yeah. The point that I made on Twitter yesterday, so I was just curious to see how many people understood the concept of like chalky versus over under owned. And for people who didn't see it, I made a poll asking if it was possible for an MLB stack to be both chalky and under owned. And the answer in my mind, and according to our analysis, would be absolutely that's possible, because you can have a lineup that like today looks like we have the Marlins at 20% projected ownership, 23% chance of being the top stack. They look under owned relative to despite being chalky. And then I was talking to a pro, somebody who's well known in the space, in a Discord yesterday, and he was saying, well, chalky just means over-owned. So like I was like, okay, there are some people who just have a different definition of what chalky means, and then obviously the analysis changes. And
I don't know who it is, and I'm sure they're good, like, but that's not how like most people define that.
Yeah, that is not how I define chalky. So I think maybe it's just in some cases a misunderstanding of what chalky means. I think in a lot of cases, obviously, also that people just don't understand the concepts. But that's what I was kind of wondering there. All right, how would you rank the four sides of this game?
Miami, Colorado, Garrett, Freeland.
Okay, yep, makes sense. All right, we have one final game on this slate. Before we get to that game, Adam, I do want to take a look at lineup generator, although we can't use lineup generator on this slate. This is just the early slate. You can check it out now. You'll be able to use it on the evening slate. I'm going to throw a link into chat for lineup generator for anybody interested. By the way, I saw Arcatelza is asking if we think Davis is going to be in the lineup again for the Rockies. I have no opinion on whether Davis. I mean, he had a home run yesterday.
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, he's not in the projected lineup that I'm using.
Okay, so most likely not coming back in the lineup.
And I don't care if he is. Like, if he is, I'll just swap whatever cheap guy I played instead, like Garrett Hampson.
Yeah, good call. Good call. All right. Good question, though. All right, so let's take a look at lineup generator again. This is using our tools to make lineups that are all positive EV lineups. Every lineup that you get in lineup generator has already been shown in our sims to be a positive EV tool. So any lineup, is a positive EV lineup. Any lineup that you get in this tool is going to be plus EV. Can't use it on this slide, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just want to show you what it looks like, so you can choose, the type of contest you're going to be in, what type of lineup you want. Do you want it to be contrarian? Do you want it to be chalky? You can make that decision for yourself, lock in certain players if you want to, and regardless of what decisions you make, it's going to be spitting out a plus EV lineup. So that's kind of the cool thing about it. Is like it is, you can change, customizable, decide what you want your lineups to look like, but it's still going to give you plus EV lineups regardless of what you do. Of course, once you start swapping out players, which is an option here, then maybe that changes. Maybe it goes from a plus EV lineup to a negative EV lineup, but at least the lineups that it spits out are all lineups that have been found to be plus EV, meaning they're good lineups over the long term, according to the stochastic sims. People have been having a lot of success, and we saw Johnny Ray Highway took 6th in a contest the other day. We've got a couple, forgetting what the other screenshots were, but we've got several people who have done really well. I know Hannah Banana had a lineup that did well with the lineup generator. We've had several people having success already, and it's only a couple weeks old. I would recommend taking advantage of it now. While not a ton of people are using it, it is still right now. If you use the link that I just put in chat, it's $4.50 for your first week, just $9 still after that. Great deal, and you're getting just good lineups. Use lineup generator, so highly recommend checking it out. But as you can see here, this is I think I click balanced. You're still getting a lot of chalk in these lineups. 70%, 71% owned Logan Gilbert, 30% owned Nola, a lot of 30% owned Lamont Wade. Like you're getting some chalk here, but then it's being offset for you by 5% owned JP Crawford, 10% owned Tom Murphy, a little bit less chalky. But on these smaller slates, you're going to have a little bit of chalk in your lineup. So this one, pretty high ownership, but kind of unavoidable on smaller slates like the ones we have today. All right, I'm gonna save this one. Still 225% ownership, 233. Yeah, getting a ton of ownership on these ones. Anyway, I'm going to save these, and then at the end, you can see your exposure levels to all players. You can decide, do I really want 90% Logan Gilbert? If not, you can go in, discard one of your, choose whichever lineup you don't like, discard those lineups, and go out and find more lineups that don't have Logan Gilbert if you decide you want to get away from him. So really cool tool. Have to love that, the safety blanket of knowing that it's only going to give you good lineups regardless of what decisions you make. Very cool tool. So check that out. If you
at first glance at the night slate, you are not going to have an issue with how much Logan Gilbert you have.
He's not a ton of great pitchers there.
Not a ton of great pitchers, and then you just get Logan Gilbert against the A's.
Okay, yeah, so it makes sense that we're getting a lot of Logan Gilbert in those lineups. Danny asking what's EV again? It's expected value. It just means essentially that they're going to be winning. It just, when I say it's a positive EV lineup, I mean that it's a winning lineup. Expected value basically means that over the long term, if you play 10,000 slates, you would expect these lineups to make you money. It doesn't mean you're going to make money every day because there's so much variance in sports. But in general, it just means like if you played the slate 10,000 times with this lineup, we would expect you to make money based on the stochastic sim. So, if you just use this tool, you use lineup generator every day, you would expect that you're probably going to make some money. All right. Final game on the slate here, Adam. We've got San Diego at Washington, Blake Snell on the mound for the Padres, Jake Irvin for the Nats. Playing these pitchers today, Adam?
Unfortunately, playing one of them. Snell, it's just another slate where like I don't want to play Blake Snell, but it's a pretty obvious play. He's 8,900. He's projected to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Gets a good matchup against the Nats. Not a lot of strikeouts in this lineup, but not a lot of good hitters either. Snell has not been good this year. 23.9% strikeout percentage, 13.5% walk percentage, 5.54 FIP. He's allowing 1.8 home runs per nine. This is a pitcher that in recent years gave you really good, 28 to 30% strikeout stuff. He walked too many guys. He was always risky because he would, kind of get himself into a jam in at least one inning, waste a bunch of pitches. But as long as he got out of it, you're going to be fine. He's been a lower strikeout guy this year with all of the same other problems. It's not like he gave up some strikeouts for better control or anything like that. He's just not getting strikeouts either. So he is legitimately risky. But, the second part to this sentence is, who are you playing over him that you feel better about? Like Zach Eflin, I think, is better. The matchup sucks, but I think he's a better pitcher. But if you're not playing Blake Snell because he walks guys or he gives up power or whatever, you just can't really play a second pitcher on this slate because they all do. So he's going to show up a lot. If you want to make the ownership case, that he's going over owned, I think that's reasonable. 50% projected ownership, 39% chance of being a top two pitcher. But it's just another slate where it seems like Snell keeps falling on these slates where there's just not a lot of good pitching. So it's just like, well, I don't want to play Snell, but I don't want to play the other guys either.
Yeah, I think that is it. 50% ownership. Like, do you think you would end up over or underweight there?
So I'm running my stuff now. My guess is I'm going to end up. Actually, I don't really know. I was gonna say I could easily see me ending up underweight, or I could see me just jamming Eflin and Snell like I did on the early slate yesterday with whoever I had the top two pitchers as.
Okay. I just want to point out we did have Nick Thompson says he tripled my money last night using lineup generator. That's awesome to hear, Nick. I mean, obviously tripling your money doesn't sound like all that exciting, but it's like it's different. Like tripling your money means that you had a pretty damn good lineup. Like you weren't just mini cashing. Like tripling your money actually takes a fairly high finish. So congrats, Nick. That's awesome to hear. Always love to hear that kind of thing.
Miami lineup just came out. Davis is in, Hampson is in, Xavier Edwards is in. So I can't figure out who they're missing, but they're definitely missing normal players. Makes their lineup cheaper. Move Nick Fortes up to 5th. So you have a $3,300 catcher in Coors batting 5th.
Yeah. All right. Is that like, how do you feel about him as a one-off? $3,400 catcher batting 5th.
Fine.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind too, catching is always a tough position, but it's even worse on a slate like this because you get catchers resting on the day game.
Yeah. Sean B says I'd play Neil over Snell today. Yeah, I've got like I do have softball tonight, so I'll let you know how it goes. I think my ERA is something like 12 probably. So we might be. We'll see. We're going to be competing. Shinwang asks, is if Matt Bellman leads off today, is he a must start? Absolutely. I mean, you got to play Matty while he's hot, and he's been crushing everything. So I imagine he'd be pretty good. And then Jenna Sandy says, I want to get the lineup generator, but if I win, I will feel I didn't do it, but a computer did it. Even though yes, the winnings would be good, but with a lot less satisfaction. I'm torn. I understand what you're saying. I also think that you kind of need to just use the tools that are available to you. Like to some extent, like we're all using information that has been generated by other people and by computers, like, just using the top stacks tool, top pitches tool. Like, this is all information that I didn't make these tools, but I still feel good winning money using tools that other people made to help me out. And this is just the next step in that. Like, you're still making decisions for yourself. You ultimately decide which of those lineups you want to play. So I don't think that you should. I think I care most about the money. I understand it is a game. Like, you want to feel like you won the game, but you're still making the decision for yourself which lineups you choose. Adam, you say you don't understand this this line of thought.
I mean, I get it, but the thing is, I think there's like a disconnect. It goes back to like there's a disconnect between like what people think DFS should be versus what it is. This isn't a game about hand building lineups against each other. Like,
right.
all you're doing, if you like say, you don't feel like you did it hand building lineups, like you're just saying, I went and played golf with a friend and I had to use a putter the whole time. Like,
right.
If you want to do that, go for it. But it's not like the game isn't data-based computer stuff playing against each other.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, I get it. I understand like wanting to feel like it's your own like skill going into it, but at the same time, you just got to use whichever tools you can to win at this game. It's a tough game to beat, and I think that it's the easiest way to win is to keep up with the tools as they advance. So you can check it out. You can also maybe split it, maybe do half and half. Use lineup generator for a couple lineups, then use your own, the way you want to build for the others. Whatever you're comfortable with. But I think that it's a valid point that you like to put your own thought into it, but at the same time, I wouldn't worry about it.
I mean, I get it in that it's more fun. I guess the viewpoint that that I switched to as time goes on is like I put all the time and effort and energy into my process and how to best use the tools that are available to me. So to me, that's where like the competitive aspect and like what I control is.
Right.
That's the part I guess that I view as like hand building, is like making my process as good as it can be so that the tools available to me are still creating lineups that look the way I believe they should look.
Right.
So I get it, but like you're just basically choosing to play a game at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, agreed. Trey McCall, I know you didn't just ask who Matt Bellman is. You know who Matt Bellman is. He was on the show last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. Filled in for Adam one day, and he's been just crushing MLB DFS. All right. Final game of the slate, Adam. You already talked about the pitchers. How much interest do you have in the bats in this game?
This game being
San Diego, Washington.
Okay. Definitely interested in the Padres side. 5.5 implied run total going up against Jake Irvin. They are second in top stack percentage at 19%, pulling about 19% ownership. Second highest in top value, basically tied with the Nats on the other side. So they look good against Irvin. He doesn't project to somebody that's likely to be very good in the major leagues. We don't have any sort of real sample on him so far, but he hasn't been great. 185 expected ISO to righties. 382 expected WOBA to righties, 408 expected WOBA to lefties, 264 to expected ISO through his first couple of starts. But you have a tough Padres team. We don't have that lineup yet. That's the only one that we're waiting on. But assuming they run out some version of a normal lineup that has Tatis and Soto and Bogarts and Cronenworth and Carpenter, they're going to look good here against Irvin. On the other side, if you want to take the Nats route against a 50% owned, not very good, volatile pitcher in Snell, I get it. This is a perfectly fine slate to do that. You're just not looking at this and saying, oh yeah, I like the Nats because XYZ, because these dudes suck.
Yep. How would you rank the four sides of this game?
Unfortunately, Snell 1, Padres 2, Nats 3, Irvin 4. All
right. I'm pulling up tiers.
Snell 1 simply because there's less good pitching options than there are good stack options.
Right. All right. I guess we've made it through the whole 4-game slate, Adam. Let's do the if you're playing 3 stacks in a 3 max contest, which 3 stacks you go into?
Miami, Colorado, and I think probably Tampa.
Does it change for you at all on FanDuel?
Maybe. Ownership looks mostly similar. Cardinals going a little bit under-owned there. So it probably ends up being like maybe St. Louis over Tampa Bay.
Okay. Otherwise, the same.
Yeah.
What about 3 favorite pitchers on each site?
Snell. God, I hate that. Eflin, Snell. Weaver on DraftKings. Eflin. So I actually really like paying up for Eflin on FanDuel. He's getting half the ownership of Snell. He's $1,400 more, but like that probably isn't going to matter all that often. So I really like Snell or Eflin as a tournament pivot on FanDuel. But Eflin, Snell, probably Weaver again. He's only getting 9% ownership at 7,300.
Okay. All right. Home run pick for the early slate.
Give me Brandon Lau.
I don't remember who I picked for the actual home run picks, but I know that I got the under $3,000. Julian hit a home run yesterday for me for that. So let's see. Who do I want here? We're not doing Coors Field. Wait, who do you end up saying?
Brandon Lau.
All right. Thinking about going to just Vladdy would make sense. No, I'm going to go Juan Soto. Juan Soto is my home run pick.
I like it.
All right. Do you? I've got tiers pulled up. Do you want me to read them off to you? Do you want to take a look at it on your phone or?
Yeah, you can read them all.
Okay. In tier 1, we've got Juan Soto, Jonathan India, Fernando Tatis, Jorge Soler.
Soto.
All right.
Wait.
We do have Soler in Coors against Freeland's the lefty.
Yeah, that's probably. Give me Soler.
Yeah, got to go with the Soler and Coors against a righty. Just, wait, against a righty or is he? I forget which he is.
It's
against the lefty. Yeah, he's a righty. Okay. Tier 2, Randy Arozarena, Paul Goldschmidt, Vladdy Guerrero, Chris Bryant.
So Goldschmidt's not in the lineup. So who was the first one?
Arozarena.
Probably him.
We also have, well, I guess Chris Bryant facing Garrett's the lefty, but Garrett's also kind of good.
Bryant and Coors.
Okay. Tier 3, we've got Josh Lowe, Wander Franco, Bo Bichette, Jake Fraley.
Wander.
Tier 4, we've got Nolan Gorman, Edwin Diaz, Ryan McMahon, Tyler Stevenson, Garrett Cooper, who's not in the lineup. Right, Garrett Cooper not in the lineup, and then John Birdie, I assume, is in the lineup.
Yeah, Birdie.
Okay, going Birdie over the lefty on lefty for McMahon. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Tier 5, we've got Matt Chapman, Nick Senzel, Xander Bogaerts, Dalton Varsho, and Jake Cronenworth.
Bogaerts.
All right, and then finally, Tier 6, we've got Lars Nootbaar, Taylor Walls, Randall Grichuk, Harold Ramirez, Spencer Steer. Man, we're getting to the names that I'm like, Tyler Friedel and Brian De La Cruz.
I'll go. So the Coors ones were Grichuk, De La Cruz, and
that was TJ Friedel. So it's Coors ones are Grichuk and De La Cruz, just those two, I think.
Okay. I'll go De La Cruz.
Okay. All right. So that will do it for tiers. Yeah, Mike Lawrence says I'm Ron Burgundy. Yeah, that's kind of what it is right there. All right. Any other questions, guys? I think we did all the parts that we do, right? We did all of the end of the slate stuff. Just did Coors tiers as we were asked to do. Does anybody have any other questions? Anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I think we've reached the end of what we needed to talk about. We've got another live before lock later for the late slate. I think it's just are you on the MLB or NBA show? Do you know tonight?
MLB.
All right, so you're I assume that's, I guess it is live before lock, but it's not actually right before lock. Is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay.
Because the slate doesn't start till like. Oh wait, no, I don't know. Okay.
And I know we've got NBA tonight too, so it'll be usually when that's the case. Yeah, I guess I don't know either. Maybe it would, but you typically don't do live before lock, if not necessary. So let's take a look at the schedule. What time is that going? Yeah, so it's you and Josh at 6:00 Eastern. So I assume that is an actual live before lock.
Yeah, I think that's.
All right, so So we don't need to talk about that slate because Adam's going to be doing a whole rundown of that slate later on. Doesn't seem like we have any questions here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to talk about. I feel like we've covered the slate pretty well. We talked about batters versus pitchers on a small slate. I feel like there's at least one other tip. Oh, stack sizes. Are you inclined to mix up your stack sizes at all since we have just four games on this slate? Are you more inclined to do full 5-man stacks on this slate? Are you inclined to do smaller, like 4-3 stacks, that kind of thing? What are you thinking as far as stack size?
I'm building some like 4-2-2 type stuff that I normally don't.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I definitely get more weird on a small slate like this. I think typically I'm more likely to do, 4-2, or just let fantasy catcher have a little bit more say in what I do on a small slate like this, rather than trying to really pigeonhole like a primary and secondary stack. But yeah, on this slate in particular, it is interesting because we do have cores, so it's like, well, certainly there you could see a full 5-man stack work out pretty well in Coors. We've got a game in Cincinnati. Like this does feel like a slate where I might consider doing full 5-man stacks on this particular 4-game slate, which I don't normally do.
Wait, you don't normally do full 5-man stacks?
On short slates. I'm more inclined to go shorter on like four slates that are 4 games or fewer. I mean, that's not entirely true. Like I still often will do 5-man stacks on a 4-game set, but we're getting closer to the level where I'm more likely to do like multiple like 4-4 stacks or 4-3 stacks as opposed to like 5-man stacks, just because it feels on some slates, it feels like I don't know that any of these stacks have the ability to sustain like 5 actual good bats. So I don't know. It's always something I'm struggling with on these small slates. Red Skittle says Newt Bar homers first at bat. Bryant homers. Eflin underwhelms. Okay, use this information as you wish. Well, I know that you predicted everything really well yesterday, Red Skittle. So maybe I'll just tail you here. Achilles asks Adam, were Eflin's underlying metrics always decent, or are you seeing considerable number deviations under the Tampa tutelage?
His underlying numbers were always fine. Like he always had good stuff. His stuff's been better this year. So his expected WOBA allowed this year versus 2021 through now is about 8% better. His whiffs per swing is about 12% better. His velo is about the same. So yeah, I mean, so far this year he's been getting, higher whiff percentage, better expected WOBA allowed, but he's always been a solid guy.
Is velo, like in general, do you think velo is harder to coach, to like teach, as opposed to like mechanics of changing up your breaking ball?
They kind of go hand in hand now. So like the answer I think used to 100% be yes.
Okay.
Now, still to an extent, like there are some guys that just physically aren't going to be able to throw more than, harder than they do. But there is a lot that you can do mechanically to make you throw harder. Like, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like massive changes. And then also they just have, more analytics now that they can work on, finding ways to increase velocity. So I think you can coach velocity a lot easier now than you used to be able to, but you're still, I would think it's still probably easier to like, get someone to throw a better curveball than to make them throw 3 miles an hour harder.
Right. Yeah.
But like that was a big thing a couple off seasons ago. And it's been, ever since guys started going the drive line out in Seattle and just coming back next season, throwing 3 miles an hour harder because they had just gone out there with, computers and, all the like Rapsodo machines and stuff like that, and just tracked everything that they do mechanically and just fix stuff so they threw harder.
Huh. Interesting. So
it's crazy how like small mechanical changes can make a big difference. Like I still remember throwing a bullpen during like winter workouts in high school, and I was just throwing with like my normal shitty mechanics, and a pitching coach from one of the really good private schools happened to be there and seeing me throw, and he just like grabs my glove arm, moves it, and tells me to do something different with it, and I jumped like 4 miles an hour like on the next pitch. Like granted, I wasn't throwing hard to begin with, so it's not like it's easy to pick up. It was easy to pick up that miles per hour, but
right.
Like it was just literally like, hey, do this different with the arm that you're not even throwing with, and it just jumps.
It's like when you're fat, it's easier to lose weight. Right. If you don't throw that hard, you're going to pick it up quicker. What was I going to say? I've never really had like a pitching coach. Like I still remember, like, because I never played baseball. As a basketball player, played other sports, but I never played baseball. But then there was a summer, like right after I graduated college, where I played wiffle ball every day, probably exaggerating, but frequently after work with my younger brother, we would just go out back and play wiffle ball. Just the two of us. We had a game set up where we, but I felt like just like you can get, like, I made small mechanical changes. I was like, if I had a coach who actually like taught me what I should be doing, like that's just, you can improve so much. That makes sense. But also that's me starting from being absolutely terrible. So easier to make
it's always
improvements.
like, obviously you're going to get those big jumps right out of the gate that you're not going to get once you're really, really good. But it was just like, the only reason I remember it is just, it was so crazy to me, where it was like something that I hadn't even thought of as being like part of my mechanics, is like what my off arm is doing. And
yeah, exactly.
this guy's just like, hey, move it this way instead of that way.
Yeah. Red Skittle says, I hope you give up Coors numbers tonight, Neil. That is mean, Red Skittle. Then he says, I didn't mean it. I'm just a salty Skittle today. We are. I told you that we have to play the best team in the league 3 times. I believe tonight we are playing them for the second time. The nice thing is it is a 6 o'clock game instead of, we've had multiple games that start at 9:15. So which is just awful, starting games at 9:15, but we actually have a game at 6:15 tonight. So I'm excited for that. But I probably will give up Coors. I will give up, honestly, if I give up like median Coors numbers, I'll be very, very happy with that. I will give up. So I'll take that as a thank you, Red Skittle. I'll take that as a compliment, not the right word, but you're cheering for me tonight, because regular Coors numbers would be much better than I usually do. All right. That's a good idea. Trey says, Neil, bring the sticky stuff for some extra spin rate. Yeah, I probably just need to. My only goal when I'm pitching in slow pitch softball is to throw a strike. Like, that's all I care about. And when I say strike, I just mean like a strike if they don't swing. I'm just trying to get over the plate for the most part. So not at the level yet where I think I need sticky stuff. All right, Adam, we can close up the show. I don't think we have any other questions coming. Give us a few minutes to work on our lineups. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, good luck on the slate. Good luck with whatever pitchers you go with. They all suck. See you tonight.
All right, right on. So Adam's going to be back later for MLB Live Before Lock. I will not be back for Live Before Lock tonight. However, in 1 hour, I will be doing a So Rare MLB show with Greg. So if you're interested in learning how to play So Rare, sign up. I put the link in the description. It's in the description of this video. I threw it in chat already. You can sign up for So Rare now. Prepare yourself, because Greg and I will be talking about the upcoming slate in 1 hour. Hopefully you guys will join us. But thank you guys for watching. And hit the like button if you haven't. And good luck tonight.